Good afternoon and welcome to the 9th episode of Save Local Journalism. The National Newspaper Publishers Association is proud to bring you 4 distinguished publishers today. Nab'a Muhammad of The Final Call, founded in the 1930s as The Final Call to Islam, the newspaper evolved into Muhammad Speaks in the 1960s and boasted a circulation of 900,000 a week with a monthly circulation of 2.5 million. Today, the weekly Final Call newspaper serves a readership of diverse economic and educational backgrounds, including circulation in North America, Europe, Africa, and the Caribbean. We also have Karl Rodney of the New York Carib News. The New York Carib News was founded in 1981 and has maintained its Caribbean ownership and commitment 32 plus years later. It is the #1 weekly Caribbean American news source outside of the Caribbean. The growth throughout the years has expanded to a multimedia platform to add new NYCaribnews.com along with other social media outlets. Joining us also is Trennie Williams of the Silver Star News in Memphis. The Silver Star News, like the Black press itself, believes that America can best lead the world away from racial and national antagonisms when it accords to every person, regardless of race, color, or creed, full human and legal rights. Hating no person, the Silver Star News strives to help every person in the firm belief that all are hurt as long as anyone is held back. And finally, and last but not least, we have Dr. R.B. Holmes of the Capital Outlook newspaper in Tallahassee, Florida. The Capital Outlook prides itself as the leading publication for mature and forward-thinking African Americans. Each issue of the newspaper is devoted to journalism that makes a difference and fosters change. They are a true community paper with a unique focus. Welcome to our distinguished publishers.
Thank
guys.
You.
Thank you.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Stacy.
Good to be with you. Absolutely, guys. As you join us today, the primary purpose of this is to talk about what you guys are doing with your respective publications. But obviously, the big issue today, as it has been over the past week, is the police killing of George Floyd and the aftermath. Nab'a Muhammad of The Final Call, we're going to go out to you. We know that you guys have been on the front lines. You got reporters around the nation and photographers around the nation. What has your reporters discovered and has reported that we can't see in mainstream?
Well, greetings, Stacy, to you and everybody else on the panel. I think that when we talk about the need to save local journalism, and in particular Black journalism, we are entrusted with telling the story of the struggle of our people and putting that story into perspective. So this week, we actually published 52 pages. We usually publish 40. We expanded a few pages for advertising, and we are only digital now, so you can go to finalcall.com to subscribe. But what we found across the country basically was the legitimate anger, the legitimate outrage, the legitimate pain that we have seen overflowing into the streets. And we have seen reaction, not to peaceful protests. We've seen reactions, not to appeals for justice, but we've seen reactions based on what they call violence, which is endemic to America, a country that started in violence, a country that still engages in violence around the world. And even while these protests are going on to stop police violence, police are being violent during the protests themselves. This is what we're finding.
Yeah, and Trennie Williams, Star News, VIP. Trennie, what are you guys finding out there with your coverage of this situation?
Well, throughout the Mid-South and across Tennessee, there's been quite a few rallies around the situation. Not too much of riots. We have a few riots around, and those have been kind of resolved rather quickly in downtown Memphis. But there have been rallies in Memphis, Tennessee, and Nashville, Knoxville, in Mississippi, as well as in Arkansas. And it shows where we have a new generation of young adults who are ready for change. and not just for African American people, but for people of all different shades and colors coming together, recognizing that, hey, Black lives do matter, and we have to do what we can to make a difference in our community. And with the newspaper, we've just been trying to make sure we can present some good news to provide for people where they can have some resolution and some answers, not just for the rallies, but dealing with the stress and the hardships of situations like this. We've had some articles in regards to that. And also just to address how it combines with the COVID-19 and other situations that are going on around the country, around the world. Hey, this thing is major, a major impact that makes a lot of people mad, angry, frustrated. I myself as well. I'm sure that every brother on this broadcast with me has had some type of experience from someone, whether law enforcement or someone else in the community, who has tried to belittle who we are and try to take advantage of that. So with the Silver Star News, we try to make a difference in putting something positive, good, and strong out there where people can stand strong and continue to rally, to have their peaceful protests, and to make a difference in the Mid-South.
Karl Rodney in New York. Karl, we know a lot is going on in New York. Can you fill us in as far as the protests? And we could talk about the coronavirus as well, because we know the virus hasn't gone away.
And certainly has not. With respect to the protests, of course, New York City and its diverse population is one of a dynamic reflection of the country. And we have seen in New York the kind of demonstration that has included everyone, the white, black, brown, young, old. And there is a determination in the demonstrators that this has to stop. It's not just the usual determination, it's one that wants action. And so we have been focusing on the kind of action that can happen to make this far more effective. We have covered the demonstrations, of course, but we've also been focusing on some of the elected leaders to find out what, in fact, they're going to do. And we have highlighted that to bring that to our community, that with all the kinds of news being fed into our community, we need to hear from our leaders. What are they doing? We need to have it straight, and we need to understand that. And so we have been focusing on electeds, but we've also been focusing on some inspirational leaders. Like today, in our cover today, and this week, we have 38 victims on the front cover of police violence. And of course, the Caribbean community is not immune to that. We have had several victims from our Caribbean American community. But in today's edition, we have David Dinkins, for one, talking about what needs to be done to bring about effective action. Interestingly enough, we carried a story on Bob Johnson, who is saying it's time for reparation of a significant amount. And he's talking about something like $14 trillion. People need to get a consciousness of what solutions exist and how demonstration will lead to these solutions. And so that's part of our focus. And as a result, we want to bring the voices that will make this not just another demonstration, but a demonstration for action, and a demonstration that we can look back on and said we played a part in making significant changes.
Dr. R.B. Holmes Jr., same question. Out where you are, what's the latest?
Well, Stacy, as you know, we're in the state of Florida, in Tallahassee, Florida. There are two major universities here, Florida University and Florida State University. So we have a great student population. And every day since the murder, lynching of Brother Floyd, we've been marching every day, literally. There are 3 storms rising in this country, and our newspaper is on the cutting edge of that. The coronavirus, racism, and poverty. You put those 3 together, you have a perfect storm. So these are, and also Black people are being impacted disproportionately. So our challenge as a black newspaper and as a minister and as the pastor being Crump is to make sure that our community understands that this got to end. Enough is enough. And this is some of the strongest times for the black press to really flex our muscle and make sure that this is not just a moment, but becomes a movement.
Yeah, and I want to ask, and this may not be the question for Nab'a, but I'm going to start with Nab'a anyway. And I say it may not be the question for Nab'a because it centers on advertising. And I know the Final Call does their own thing. They don't depend on any advertising. But Nab'a, I'm going to start with you too. Yesterday was Blackout Tuesday. It was dubbed Blackout Tuesday, meaning African Americans were not to spend their money. Had a number of mainstream newspapers quoting Dr. King, and there was a number of people from different civil rights organizations and Black Lives Matter signing that document that Jay-Z's put out to these newspapers. They did not include the black press in that. I want you to talk about that a little bit.
Well, we know that generally for black papers, the advertising is the lifeblood that enables them to tell the stories of our people. And I think that, first of all, anyone who advertises is not doing us a favor. They are actually being reciprocal in terms of a relationship. And mostly, generally, black papers have to fight for whatever ad revenue they get. That's number one. Number two, I think with Jay-Z and this major ad buy, I think the focus was on speaking to white people and the mainstream as a strategy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think the question becomes, at what point do we focus on self-determination? At what point do we focus on strengthening black institutions? Because believe it or not, white folks are going to get tired of this story. And white press is going to move on. And all of these black faces that you're seeing on TV, all of these black faces and these thoughts that you're seeing in mainstream media, is going to go away. So maybe, we often see the need to partner with white institutions, like, for example, Jay-Z partnering with the NFL in terms of the NFL saying it wants to do something different. But we'll see what they want to do. But I think perhaps we can try to engage with our brothers to talk about the need to strengthen black institutions. We will never be free, justified, and equal depending on those who formerly enslaved us to be benevolent. And I would also lastly say this: don't be fooled by what you see on CNN and MSNBC.
Right.
Everybody in this country is not on the same page. Everybody does not agree to what happened to George Floyd was wrong. They have been forced to admit that because of the viciousness of that video and the angry response that has destroyed property. Check out Fox News and see what white folks really think.
Amen. Stacy, can I jump in?
Well, jump in, Dr. Holmes.
Yeah, I think Brother Muhammad is correct. Let me just start with the lesser to the greater. I think that if we talking about NFL and Jay-Z, God bless him, but until we really talk about ownership, that's economic empowerment. This is the 21st century. We got to really talk about all of our entertainers and athletes and millionaires and billionaires. When are we going to pool our resources together to own our own NFL teams, NBA teams? That's number one. Number two, I read the article about JC, and that brother does a good job in this community. But if we don't support the black press and black institutions and HBCUs, then we're part of the problem and not part of the solution. So I think the dynamic has to change from all this police killing and brutality. As a black people, we got to begin to own our banks, our restaurants, our newspapers, our institutions, because once you continue to beg them, you cannot beg your way to freedom.
Stacy,
Williams,
let me
you want to jump
jump
in
in
there?
here on this particular question, because Jay-Z, black entertainers, black sports people, they control tremendous wealth. And they got to this point by what we have done in the black press to empower them and to
Amen.
bring them to where they are. And they seem to forget that if we are endangered, it's not just the black press that's endangered, it's people like them, because their start, their background, and their own very existence for many came out of the black press. So I don't know how much you can convince white folks, and with all the kinds of fake news that is coming through the general market media. But I do know that the responsibility of the black press has always been to uplift the black community, including the Jay-Z's, and they should have at least the sensitivity and the obligation to make sure that as they spend the kinds of money that we have allowed them to earn, that they will be looking at the black press as a resource for them and as a part of the community that needs to survive. And so this insensitivity to the needs of black and looking for white endorsement is a problem that we have suffered from long enough, and we need to bring this out to awareness.
Is it rational?
Trennie Williams?
Go ahead, Bro Williams.
Yeah, I agree with all of you in that regard. Yes, JC, I believe he was looking at a particular audience in regards to the advertising he was presenting. However, most of the time, the black press gets neglected or overlooked in regards to advertising. I mean, we could be at the Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, National Football League, the Hockey Associations, whatever it may be. We should be a part of those advertisings on a national scale. And maybe it'll take us as a group with National Newspaper Publishers Association to make that type of difference. Also, along with that, we express the voice of the black people, not just in a general perspective, because most of the time when you see a lot of other medias and you have the African Americans who are there, they're limited. Those producers are limited. Those writers are limited. But when it comes to us, we can express as much as we want to actually show the rest of the world how we feel, how things are handled in our community, how we see and view things. And that's why now we're getting to the point of where people can understand what we meant by Black Lives Matter. I mean, Black lives do matter. For a while, they were saying, well, yeah, blue lives matter, white lives matter, red lives matter, but they didn't understand the tragedies that we've had in our lives that continue to go on each and every day. Most of them are not even videoed, okay? But we have to really stand strong still on that perspective of letting people know that, yes, we do matter. We want to make a difference. We want to unify with everybody as well, but we don't want other people to hold us back and keep us from progressing and succeeding. I think we have to make a more aggressive approach and even a more radical approach with the different organizations around the country so they can advertise, but also so we can establish new businesses in these areas as well. One place I'm looking at in particular, everybody, is the National Football League. They got on a football player, Kaepernick, because kneel down, okay?
Yeah.
Because they didn't understand what Black Lives Matter. And instead of saying we are supporting the fact that African-American males are being brutalized and taken advantage of in our community, they just wanted to stand still and then wanted to pull the string to say, well, we own you. You do what we say, or you're not going to have a place to play, and we're just going to blackball you, so to speak, where you can't have a career. We need to change all of that. And I'm looking for the NFL to come out and say something in particular about all of this, as well as other organizations. I'll put out one in particular here in Memphis, Tennessee, FedEx. FedEx was founded by Fred Smith, and he's still chairman of the board. He put out a letter in regards to this because he was just totally upset about it and wanted people to know that, hey, FedEx is not one of the places that want to condone these types of actions. And that meant a lot to me because Fred Smith really didn't have to do it, but he did have to do it. But we need to have more of these corporations from Wall Street to our street to come out and say, we're going to support Black people. We're going to make sure that they can move forward in life and stop trying to hold back as many folks as possible.
Well, Black lives do matter.
Nelson King Sr.
Black lives do matter.
I'm sorry, Dr. Holmes.
Yeah, Black lives do matter, and Black dollars do matter. And you cannot enhance Black lives if you don't enhance the economic development of your people. That's the problem. You know, that so-called stimulus package, it didn't reach Black folk. It reached corporate America. It did not reach Black businesses, especially the Black newspaper, Black radio stations. And until we really call it what it is, if we don't control our economics, if we don't challenge folk to support the Black press, the stories you brothers run in your newspaper going to be different than what the white press going to run about Brother Floyd and other Black brothers and sisters that have been abused by the police. They're gonna talk about from around the edges. We dig deeper. And when Black folk get in trouble, when the white press destroy them, they come looking for the Black press to deliver them. We the reason why these folk get elected, especially Black folk, because the Black press get affirm who they are or disaffirm who they are not.
You know, Stacy, I wanted to comment. I think, you know, recently NNPA has had Ice Cube on and has had Russell Simmons on. And I think that perhaps maybe that communication can be leveraged so that there can be a conversation with Jay-Z. Too often we talk about building bridges with Caucasian people. We don't talk about building bridges with one another. So I think that's important. And I think that the work that he and his wife Beyonce have done around the country, bailing people out, paying for funerals, supporting HBCUs, as Beyonce did with her great video. So I think we need to strengthen and build these relationships within our own community. Also remember, Jay-Z is an entrepreneur. So he knows something about ownership, even though he has these different partnerships. So I think maybe we can do that. Lastly, Black dollars and the harnessing of Black dollars. And the other thing is, we tell these stories all the time. So when the mainstream jumps in about the killing of George Floyd, well, we talked about the killing of Rekia Boyd here in Chicago, killed by a cop. We talked about Laquan McDonald, killed by a cop. We've talked about others killed by cops that they have never covered or they were late to cover. So our people need to understand, you may get a hit on CNN today, but that hit gonna soon dissipate. But we have the ability to continue to tell your story. So the stronger you make us, the stronger you make our ability to fight for you.
I think we also have to make an understanding in regards to...
Hang on, brothers. Hang on 1 second, Trennie. We just want to make sure that we acknowledge some of those who are watching us right now. Nelson King Sr. mentions that you guys are absolutely correct because we are able to enjoy all the benefits of being in America except for one, controlling our own destiny. And Toya Carter-Williams, she thanks you, Trennie, for the invitation. Lynn Harris is sharing. Here's I want to ask you guys, because this is a unique panel, 4 strong Black men on the same panel. Do any of you have children and grandchildren? And if so, what do you say to them to help navigate today's climate?
Well, I have 5. I have 5 that are children, 3 boys and 2 girls. My oldest is a son, 25 years old, daughter, 24. Well, she'll be 24 next month. 21, soon to be 22-year-old, 19, soon to be 20, and a 16-year-old, my son. All right, 3 boys, 2 girls. Now, I have taught to them uniquely, especially my young men, so they know how to conduct themselves in the community. We have to teach our children to keep their hands on the steering wheel or out the window so the police can see them. And also not to get rude or to say yes or no or yes, sir, or no, sir, to make sure they understand you're cooperating with them, okay? We've had to teach them that type of thing. If there's a fight that breaks out somewhere, don't stand up in the midst of the fight. Go ahead and leave out unless it's somebody you need to help pull out of the fight. but don't get caught up in a situation because they'll label you and say that you did something that you may not have even done. So I've had to teach my sons that, and my daughters as well, to be careful where they go and how they represent themselves. They've been privileged to actually continue and not experience a whole lot, but they have noticed a lot of, I guess, sarcasm, racism, in their schools that they've attended, and but that goes to where we can just dialogue with them more to help them understand now is your time to shine, to make a difference as a young adult. We want you all to be entrepreneurs. We want you to be self-employed. We want you to actually make a difference. If you're working somewhere else, hey, have a plan to progress throughout that, but represent us as African Americans and nothing less, because there's nothing greater than being yourself. All right. And also, let me say this, we're a Christian family, so church plays a big part. And I would like for all the churches to actually make a difference with all of our youth and young adults, as well as all their congregations, to come out and make a difference in this thing as well. Too long we've sat back. I don't know what the deal is, but sitting back, and I'm a pastor myself, but I don't sit back. My congregation doesn't sit back. Quite a few of my colleagues, we don't sit back, but there's so many that sit back and ignore it, just like other organizations we depended on in past decades, which we know those organizations as well, who are not representing us like we used to be represented. So now we got to force the hand to tell them to do something different. And we got to force the hand for our young folks, even my children, to make a difference. They've been torn apart by this particular situation. And it's really hurting them to the core. I mean, I've never seen my daughters expressing so much on their social media pages about African Americans and how much they need to be respected, how we need to support Black businesses, how we need to make these things so different. And we need to do these things because that's how we're going to make a difference. We need to have the ownership. We need to teach our young folks to have ownership in their community with businesses and organizations. And that's how we bring about change, not just for the dollar, but for our lifestyle and how we move forward in the future.
I think that, Pastor Williams, I'm a pastor also, as stated earlier. I think this whole idea about the coronavirus, 100-some thousand people, 100-some thousand people died, 100-some thousand people died. Disproportionately, African Americans, poor and brown. And we don't have hospitals and urgent care in the hood, in the Black community. That's our fight as pastors, as leaders, to make sure that we deal with this healthcare disparities. Only thing COVID-19 did was just pull back the onion. We knew that our folk would die disproportionately. B, we got to also talk seriously about how do we continue to empower our civil rights organization. Also leading the National Action Network in Tallahassee under Reverend Al Sharpton, we got to make sure that NACP, SCLC, National Action Network, and our civil rights organization, we need to continue to support them strongly. And lastly, yes, our boys and girls, they ought to see us as this generation making sure that we can leave them the hospitals, the nursing homes, the banks, the credit unions, the stronger HBCU. So until we get this economic foundation right, we're not going anywhere. Spirituality, economics, strong values, create a strong community where we control our own destiny. We the only one begging folk to support us. We spend close to $1 trillion a year, close to 40 million Black folk in this country, and we got to beg. We got to beg the police department to set up, to develop a police review board. We got to beg them to give us justice. No. We have to control the dollar and the dignity and our own history even now, and we got to dig deeper in this 21st century because we're going backwards and not forward economically, educationally, politically, culturally, and spiritually. But we're going to do it because the Black press is strong. The Black church got to be stronger. We got to make HBCUs stronger, and we got to make each other stronger.
Have y'all heard about this? About the Black dollar?
1 second, Trennie. 1 second. Trennie, 1 second. I want to hear. I want to give Karl Rodney a chance at that last question too before you move forward on the issue of children and grandchildren.
Sure. I'd be happy to. We have 3 daughters, and they're all adults. And the question, Stacy, is not so much what I am saying to them, because we have spoken over the years, is what they are now saying to us. And it's interesting. My eldest is a Supreme Court justice in New York State, and her perspective on things, and while not publicly known, very keen on what is happening in the judiciary system and how it has impacted our community. And I listen to her because she is now directing how people will relate to a black woman judge, and she has some interesting stories, and how she's reacting to what's happening in Minneapolis is very interesting, very informative to me. And so it's how we're strengthening each other in this dialogue. My second daughter has her own company, and our company is unique in that she does market research in areas that are what you call deprived areas. And when I listen to her and what she and how she reacts to this gentleman, it's amazing the sensitivity that I've lacked. And a lot of what I'm saying to you in terms of Jay-Z and some of these things is coming directly from my interaction with my children. And so I'm learning a lot, and I'm watching how they are reacting. And the youngest one, who is in the business of Carib news, she said to me, and she runs the paper essentially, that I'm putting on the front page not just George Floyd, but let us remind people all of the other victims that are around. And we have, as I mentioned earlier, 36 images of those who have suffered under this police brutality, and this was her approach. And so the younger ones have a certain sensitivity that we need to start taking in, and I'm taking that in. I can understand those who have younger children. I have no grands, but it's interesting to see how the children are evolving and their perspective on things. So they're pushing me and my thinking as to what is happening, even in a more direct direction, a more positive, and I would say assertive direction, because sometimes we get weary and sometimes we get tired, and they're saying this is no time for that. We got to move you, and we got to move your generation, and we all got to come around how we solve these things. Solution oriented thinking. So I'm learning a lot from my children, and what we do see is a reflection, and certainly what they've seen us as Black press owners, and we are entrepreneurs too. And we need to remember that how we conduct, how we do our work, and how we commit to our community, and that commitment is certainly shining through the children as they too are committed, even in a stronger way.
You know,
And
Stacy,
go
I
ahead.
have actually have 6 children and 2 grandchildren. My grandchildren are under the age of 4. But my children have been taught about this struggle from before they came out of the womb. And the conversation I've been having with them is the need for intergenerational struggle. The conversation I've been having with them is just because you personally enjoy advantages, just because you personally enjoy opportunity, your personal comfort is nothing without freedom for your people. And your personal comfort will be disturbed and destroyed by a society that hates Black people. So I encourage them to always, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan has said to us, love self first. Doesn't mean you can't love other people. You love self first. Do for yourself. Be respectful and upstanding, but at the same time, you only got one life. And you don't let nobody just take your life. You fight for the life that Allah has given you.
Oh, Stacy, I forgot to say, no, I have 3 children. I have 3 beautiful children, adults, and I think, yeah, six grandchildren. I'm going to get that in. 3 beautiful children, 6 grandchildren, and what my brother Muhammad said, I try to teach them about self-help, self-determination, self-love, and become owners, become entrepreneurs, do something for yourself, and then turn back and help others.
And to show people that they're wrong in regards to what they portray about African Americans and Black people. A lot of times when I'm somewhere, it could be someone Asian or Caucasian, or sometimes even Africans or African Americans. They want to know where we're from. You know, we're from Memphis. No, you're from somewhere else. You're from another country. No, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. You know, no, you don't act like you're from Memphis. You don't act like you're from the South. You don't act like you're from, you know, because they have this big portrayal of a bunch of ignorant folks that don't know how to handle business or don't know how to speak. I don't know how to present themselves. My wife and I have spent a lot of time making sure we educate and teach our children how to behave when they're somewhere and to make a difference no matter where you are and to respect everybody, no matter what. And in turn, they'll respect that. They'll know more about you, regardless if they're trying to do you wrong or not, but they'll respect you as a person because you are a person of integrity and accountability on most circumstances. But we have to really erase that eradication of that we're nobodies and that we want to be impoverished and that we don't want anything, and sit back and they need to realize, hey, we're all people too. All of us want to have a decent place to live. All of us want to have food on our tables. All of us want to have some decent clothes to wear. And all of us want to have that love from the inside that shines out and to share with somebody else. So, and I've taught my children that, and I try to teach other young adults the same thing, because that's where we're going to come in and make a difference with this time right here in regards to George Floyd and all the others prior to him and some that have come after him, that we're going to have to really help people to understand that let's stand up and show our character. Let's stand up and show show our value and our worth. Let's stand up, regardless of what other people say, so they can do nothing but sit down, or like one president said, put up or shut up.
You know, thank you, brother William. Hey, Stacy, I don't want to dominate, but I think that also I'm just a supporter for the Black press, and the Black press cannot thrive if Black folk do not redouble their support of the Black press, and if our civil rights organizations and the Black Caucus and others, our great leaders, do not put pressure on corporations to support the Black press, because we support them. This upcoming election, we got to talk about very strategically vote by mail. We got to encourage your understanding COVID-19. We cannot do what we did in 2016, dance and have a good time, and intergenerational millennials. You have to get out there and vote. And that's what the Black press does. We got to continue to tell those stories about our history, why voting is still necessary, why voting is theological, why voting is psychological, why voting has economic impact in our communities. But now, because of COVID-19 and the tricks they're going to play, we got to encourage our people to vote early and have a major campaign to vote by mail.
Yeah, I think Stacy.
Well, Joe's just joining us. We are talking with 4 of our distinguished publishers in the Black press family. This is the National Newspaper Publishers Association live broadcast with our publishers. I want to ask you something, Nab'a, and I want to ask each of the publishers this question, but I want to start with Nab'a. Activism today, the style of activism today. Do you agree with the level of the way that activism is being carried out? Some say disorderly conduct. What's your thought on that, Nab'a?
I think we should look at how America started. Did America start with disorderly conduct? When I was in school, they taught me about something called the Boston Tea Party. And the Boston Tea Party was not the British and the Americans sitting down having tea and crumpets. It was the destruction of property by those who felt that those who were ruling them had exceeded the limit. The colonists were being shot down in the street. They were tired of being forced to host soldiers from Britain in their homes. They were tired of taxation without representation. But their Declaration of Independence, if we were to write a Declaration of Independence, putting forth our wrongs, putting forth for the opinions of men the way that we have been destroyed. There would be no way to deny we need to be separate from these people. So I think our people are doing what needs to be necessary. We don't want to see anyone hurt. We don't want to see any destruction of property. But this is a country that was built, born, and has been maintained on hurt, the destruction of property, and violence. Dr. King once called the U.S. government the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today. And lastly, while people are out in the street protesting police violence, policemen are still committing acts of violence. There's a video that shows in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a man who steps forward to a police line, unarmed. He gets sprayed with pepper spray in his face. And then after that, a tear gas canister is fired into his face. So who's being violent? You tell me.
I want to go to Karl Rodney with that same question.
Thanks, Stacy. Activism is necessary. Activism is the catalyst for change, and activism might be uncomfortable for some, but we know it's the way forward. My concern with activism is that it be focused on solutions. It can't be just a scream and a yell or a feel-good moment, because we're talking about centuries of oppression and centuries of survival. And so as we look to what is happening in this moment, we need to be very focused on what is the solution. How can we move this forward in our own best interest? How can we look at those gaps in our community, the lack of entrepreneurs, the lack of business, the lack of self-support, and in some instances, own self-interest? And how can we use that as we are activated and as we are motivated now because of what we have seen, that must translate itself also into solution. And so we have been very focused on what we're asking. We get the message from the young people, and we get the message from our elders. I mean, and we know what that message is. How do we know, leave our mark that we did make a move, we did push the effort forward at this time? And it has to do with a number of initiatives that we can bring to the fore when we look at the disparity that the pandemic has brought out, the cruelty that this police brutality is showing to us in the community, and certainly the unawareness of white folks. We need to use this time to make demands, and I am, I'm not pushing a reparation kind of demand, but I'm pushing a demand that move and narrow the gap, the real gap that exists between income, between home ownership, between all those markers of progress for a family and a person. And we need to see that change. And so activism has to be an opportunity for us to move the ball forward. We are focusing on that, and that's what I think the mission of the Black Press has been, to play our own cause, to push forward, and that's what we intend to do.
I think, Stacy,
Trennie Williams.
Trennie.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that activism, we have a lot of activism going on, but the question is it collective? A lot of small pieces all around in every city, in every community whatsoever, but it's not collective, which makes it more ineffective. We need to pull these pieces together. I believe the NNPA, the Black Press, we as newspapers and publications all over the country can help unify these efforts where activism can make a difference. And that way, whether it's a political party, whether it's a corporation, or any other situation going on in our community, we can have a uniform effort to make a difference. It's almost like every time you see, a lot of times on television, they'll pick a certain word, and like Obamacare. They used Obamacare, and everybody elaborated on that. Now everybody knows what Obamacare is. Now they got, what is that, Obamagate. And so now they're expressing the same thing over and over and over again. We should be doing the same thing with the NNPA. We've done it before, collectively, about a decade or so, when we were looking for advertisement from a particular auto dealer. And we all ran the same thing, to let them know, hey, either advertising or not, but you're going to reap the consequences, okay? So we have to really do that in regards to really making a difference of activism. I really would like to see that, because that will make everybody's effort most productive. Whether it's Black Lives Matter and other organizations throughout, we just need to pull all those pieces together. So we got to have a collective effort with an NNPA signature and stamp on it, where we can lift these things up. Because what I see now is a lot of people take advantage of our situation. Both parties take advantage of us because we don't have a collective way of activism. They're not really hitting on our agenda overall. Neither one of them are. But we have to really push stronger to make sure that we are represented fully. And then on top of that, we have what we need in our homes, our churches, our businesses, our communities, and everywhere else across the globe.
I think that the Black press has to talk about, position papers, and solutions. I think we have to do articles on entrepreneurship, education, police brutality, criminal justice reform. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that people are supporting us. That's so important. And I cut from the cloth of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Nelson Mandela, Mary McLeod Bethune, Sojourner Truth. So they were all activists. But how do we turn what they taught us, right? We turn anger into action. We turn pain into progress and purpose. That's why the nonviolent movement was so strong. We're able to be strong because we didn't allow anger to control us. We control our anger and develop policies that made a difference for our people.
Yeah, and so, Nab'a, again, activism. What else can the Black press do to help save Black lives?
Well, I think we need to do a couple things. We have to be vigilant and fulfill our duty as watchmen on the wall. So we have to listen, then go back and research. For example, and I've got to get back to somebody on my staff doing this. At one point, the president said during a press conference that they were putting X amount of millions of dollars into Black neighborhoods, in particular, in community health centers. Well, I want to know, what community health center? Where's that money going? We need to ask the questions in terms of COVID-19. It's not enough to say that disparity exists. The question is, now that you know, what are you going to do? So we need to bring that question and bring that information to our people. I think lastly, Stacy, this forum that you're hosting is a great example of using modern technology. And perhaps we would consider maybe in our own individual locales, bringing in activists, as our brother said, to help pull these pieces together. So maybe we can host something like this, bring in different activists, and let them talk about what they're doing. Let them talk about what they know and what they don't know. Because what I'm hearing from a bunch of people is they know what they want, but they don't know how to get there. And that's not just the activists. That's a whole bunch of people, all the way to those that serve in Congress.
But Muhammad, good point. I'm sorry, Stacy, I'll be finished. But that's why the Black press, we have to call for Policy Review Board. We have to call for criminal justice reform. We cannot wait for the white press to do that. This is a time we have to call for the corporations to support the Black press. There are some strategies that we want to roll out in our newspaper, Policy Review Board, criminal justice. How would that look? We got to do the economic development, education reform. We're waiting for the Wall Street Journal to tell us how to be delivered from helping our community. We got to go back to the basics and do our own thing.
Well, that goes to the point of one of our viewers, Michelle Evans Oliver, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History in Richmond, Virginia. She says doing articles on financial wealth for African Americans is a must. And I also want to acknowledge that our great publisher down in Fort Lauderdale, Bobby Henry of the West Side Gazette, is watching, and Penda Howe of the Amsterdam News in New York. And if anybody watched us a couple of days ago on Monday, Penda Howe and Bobby Henry participated in a very emotional conversation about what we're discussing today, the police murder of George Floyd. Trennie Williams, you know,
Stacy,
black press.
this is Carl. I seem to have lost volume. I'm not hearing what is happening.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
We can hear you
Hello?
fine, Karl
we
Rodney.
can hear you.
I'm not hearing what's happening.
Okay. We'll come back to you, Karl Rodney. Trennie Williams. Again, we want to continue that discussion on what can the black press do to save black lives.
Well, really, like you're mentioning Bobby and Penda, they did a great job the other day. I listened to that, my wife and I, and we really appreciated the words that they shared in regards to that, which shows how great and powerful the black press is, including all the gentlemen I'm here with today. It's a privilege for me to be here with you all and to share this time together. We need to do this more often, whether it's on live broadcast or just on a conference call or zooming into each other, where we can come up with some good, solid solutions, which is what we're talking about right here, Stacy. Maybe we do need to do those types of things. Off the chart, off the record, let's come together. I mean, we have technology where we can come together and come up with some good ideas and plans to talk about economic progress in the African-American community or just all over the country overall. We play a part in every part of it. If we were to pull out and not participate, the country would be in disarray. It'll probably just collapse because of the economic impact that we have. Now, one thing that we have to feature in this, and I saw an article, somebody wrote an article. I'm going to publish this probably on next week again because we need to look at this again. But it says the value of the black dollar or the black family will be zero by 2053.
Yep.
All right. Now, who says that has to be true? I mean, now that we know, it's almost like someone that's going to say, if you keep smoking, you're going to be dead by next week. Well, keep smoking or stop smoking. So you got a few more days and a few more years left. And we need to stop this bleeding of economics in the black community. I believe it's left up to us to make a difference. It's left up to us to come up with our ideas. I'm working with some young men right now to revitalize some property in Memphis. They noticed that a lady, she's had a business, it's been run down. They want to go in and help revitalize her property, but also the properties next to that. It's almost like buying back the block. Some young men, these young men are like 27, 30 or so. And so I'm in on the project with them to help them align these things so we can make a difference in Memphis. But when we get done with this one, we're going to move to another area and another area and another area, providing business office locations where entrepreneurs and young people can come together and share their business-like tenacity, but they can make a difference in the community. Our medias have to do these sorts of things. We have to be at the grassroots like we always are and making a difference for these young people because they have the strength while we have the wisdom to pull some things together and grow, not just locally and not just nationally, but internationally. That's what I see the newspaper and the black press doing.
Yeah, Dr. Holmes, you wanted to jump in on that?
Well, I think this is the final call. This is the final call. I think that if we don't come together as people of faith and color and develop now through our black press, the black agenda going forward. Like our brother William said, water, sit down. You all intelligent brothers and sisters across this country. We ought to sit down as a black press and talk about our black agenda and give that to those who run for president and our governors and our senators. We got to do that. We are intelligent. We're articulate. We're able. God has blessed us. We don't have to beg Biden or Trump to give us their agenda. We ought to have the black agenda for change.
Nab'a, we know that you guys, as we said at the top of this show, has been at the front lines. You've been out in New York, Minneapolis, all across the country with your reporters and photographers. I want you to just talk a little bit, if you will, about the coverage, about the importance of your coverage from a black perspective.
Stacy, one of the things that I think is always important, and it goes back to the genesis of the black press. Too long have others spoken for us, we wish to speak for ourselves. So our ability to analyze, to present, to correct, to warn is critical. The question that I ask very often is, can the children of the former slaves and the children of the former slave masters see things the same way? Because that would require the children of the slave masters to look at and disavow their very inheritance built on the injustices put upon us. So we should not act as though white people don't know what's going on. We should not act as though they don't have conversations in their homes. We should not act as though this is all of a sudden new and they really didn't understand. And if they really knew better, they would do better. What did they do to Dr. King in 1968? Versus what, when he turned from somewhat of an acceptable agenda, but his agenda was never acceptable. Because even while he was meeting in the White House, the FBI was surveilling him. When he went to Memphis to make his speech and to talk about the plight of the black garbage worker, the Defense Intelligence Agency tracked him to Memphis. And you don't have to take my word for it. Look up the article written by the Memphis Commercial Appeal, and maybe if the white man writes it, for those of you that need that confirmation, you can get it there. My point is our perspective, our passion, our commitment, our fearlessness is important. And that commitment, that fearlessness, that connection will keep us connected with our own people. So we don't render ourselves irrelevant. And we have to continue to try to work and bring young people on board in whatever way that we can.
Stacy,
Nab'a, as a point of reference, Nab'a, I want to just, as a point of reference, I just want people to see what we've been talking about, what your coverage has been like. We've got some fantastic pictures there.
Yeah, these are different covers from the Final Call newspaper, which is indicative of how we have covered these stories, and not just today, but yesterday. Right. All of us have done this. And our perspective, is the country on the brink of anarchy? We asked that weeks ago, not today. So with us having an independent view and an independent mind, we can almost be like the prophets of old, saying to our people and saying to our oppressors, this is what is coming down. And if you don't want it to come down, reform yourself. Don't talk about it, as the young people used to say. Be about it.
Well, today they said, show me your receipts. April the 3rd, Brother Muhammad, you're right. April the 3rd, 1968, Dr. King gave his last speech before they assassinated him. He talked about economic empowerment. A lot of folk were still, I have a dream. But even that speech was about economic empowerment. It was about self-help. The last book you wrote, where do we go from here? Community or chaos? That's the question for us now. Are we going to move toward the beloved community or be chaotic?
Yeah, because it's been decades now since we've actually had an organized effort to do these sorts of things. I agree with both of you in that regards. We have to really make a difference. And it starts with us, with the black press. We can go out here and represent, but make sure we include every generation from the youngest to the oldest to make sure we make a difference to build the city and to build the country. where we're totally involved, and then the economic progress is coming along the way. There's a lot in regards to this, but I think if we come together, like we say, not just on this live broadcast, but we come together once a month, once every other week or something to discuss matters at hand and see how we can uniformly present things out here in the community, where it's not just heard in Memphis or just in Chicago or wherever, but it can be heard all over the world. I think that's where we can see a difference being made.
Brothers, I got to leave. I enjoyed the dialogue, but I got another very important meeting. But we got to go from rhetoric to results. This is the final call and the last dance. God bless y'all.
God bless you. Thank you. Good hearing you today.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. We really appreciate
Stacey,
it. Karl Rodney, thank you for getting back with us. Yes, Karl Rodney, we go ahead, Karl Rodney.
On the question of entrepreneur and economic development, which is a subject that I feel very strongly about, and I think we keep missing that as a people, even among our leaders. We seems to demonstrate for social services, and we demonstrate for different activities, and we are not looking to what drives this country and will drive any kind of community, is that of economic development and economic empowerment. And I think the NNPA is in a strong position to lead some of that, because that was the issue that confronted our forefathers decades ago, and it confronts us today. And NNPA is in a position to talk about equity. How do we equitable participate in this economy? And we have a good case, and I know the leadership has been doing some of that, and we need to just get behind them and do some more. Meaning, products that are in our community, and we are the main consumers. We are not being in the community. We are not being respected by those community by supporting Black business from our community, Black press, and we need to be able to bring some pressure to bear that we want equity. If we are coming into our community and you're taking revenue out, which we do, we're buying stuff, that we need a position of equity. We need to talk about fairness, and we need to make that as benchmark for success, or a benchmark for what we do as a community. Bring the business in our community, support the community business, and we can take that on, and we can take action, which we have done in the past, as to who you support and who you endorse and who you might want to picket. And so we are, NNPA is the only credible national outlet of information that exists in this country for Black people and real people. And so we need to take that on as a mission for ourselves as publishers and business persons, to look to this equity, to look to this pie that is so large. You have so many billionaires that you can't count them, and say, how do you, this disparity, this wealth disparity, how can we then deal with that and close that gap? So it's a charge to us as individual, charge to the organization, and a charge to our community to start focusing on what is going to make us work and what is going to develop for us and our future.
Yeah, Nab'a Muhammad, last week, the NAACP held a forum on Black media. And during that forum, they didn't invite the Black press at all to talk about the Black media. But during that forum, a publisher from Black Enterprise magazine basically gave a eulogy to the of the Black press. I want your response. I want Trennie Williams's response and Karl Rodney's response to that.
Well, you know, I think that we, like this entire journalism industry, we are fighting, looking, and struggling for ways to make sure that we guarantee our survival. So the struggle that the Black press is engaged in, on one level, is no different than the struggle that all media are engaged in. But the disparity the lack of resources, the lack of support, and I would say even the suppression of the Black press puts us in a more critical position. But I think it's more than a travesty. And frankly, it betrays something of the Negro mind. That some of us don't want to be free. We want to be accepted by white folks. So we will only listen to those who work for white news outlets who are also failing. They're going out of business. They're losing jobs and they're firing Black people. So it's a travesty that this group would do that. But I have to say, with all due respect, if you don't understand self-determination, you will remain a Negro licking the boots of your slave master. You will never give yourself the credit and the respect that you deserve because you're in a fight against an enemy that you got. But some of us, we love the adulation and the acceptance from Caucasian people. And as long as we do that, we will never move to where we are. Like I say to my children, love self first. Doesn't mean you can't love somebody else second, but you better be damn sure that you love yourself first, put your agenda first, and look out for your interests first, because guess what? That's what the people you dealing with are doing and have done, and they've worked to undermine your love of self and undermine your interest, and they've kept the boot on your neck to keep you from progress. So keep on with white folks if you want to, but your day is gonna come when they're not gonna want you no more. So it would be good for you as a Black journalist to support the Black press so that when the white folks kick you out, you got somewhere to go. Because when they kick you out, you find your way back home.
Sharima Johnson says that, she says suppression is key in regards to silencing our people. Michelle Evans Oliver brings up Carter G. Woodson's The Miseducation of the Negro. And it goes on and on. Our president and CEO, Dr. Benjamin Chavis, has checked in. Congratulations to the Black press of America, he says. Again, Michelle Evans Oliver running the same collective advertisement to bring the right people together is an idea. The Black agenda, ASALH Richmond, is down for the collective conversation. Trennie Williams, you want to pick up on that conversation there?
I do, and I concur with Mr. Muhammad in regards to everything he said. Along with that, though, I think we need to look at the dollar. And looking at the dollar is not just we get caught up in so many trends, the fashion trend, the music trend. We want to look good. We want to feel good. We want to smell good. We spend a whole lot of money doing that. But we need to change that trend from the fashion trend to the money trend. What are you doing with every single dollar that you have? Are you gonna save some and put it away for a future plan of building a business? Are you going to invest some of that money by going to a local business owner and helping him in his business efforts? Or are you going to make sure you think twice before you spend that money? You all know, like we said, we got trillions of dollars that we spend throughout the decades on different things we want to just have, whether it's from hair to clothes, food, and cars and all of that. But that's not getting us anywhere. We're going to have to re-educate, like I said, miseducation of the Negro. We need to use our media outlets to re-educate our people where they can think about that dollar they're spending and invest it in a sure and smart way, where they're investing in property, where they're investing in securities, where they're investing in putting their money in the right businesses, where they're investing in their life more so than just their lifestyle. Because a lot of people are perpetrating their lifestyle. You could stop them. They won't get a check next week. They have to turn that car in the week after. We don't want to be in that type of lifestyle. We need to re-educate the people all in our community where they can buy smarter, where they can save smarter, and then they can live smarter. And I believe that through our presentations of our media outlets, we can make that kind of change. And what'll happen is other people just see it in the light later on. But we got to take responsibility to do these things right here. And I mean, I'm not talking about just we, NNPA, and the Black press and our media outlets. I'm talking each individual. We need to take responsibility and make a difference, not just for ourselves, but our children, our children's children, and our children's children's children. Because we're not going to see, I'm not participating in our dollar being zero by 2053. I don't know about you all, but hey, my black dollar is going to be just as powerful then as it is right now, if not more. Okay, but we have to educate everybody else to change this around. We see the zeros coming, but we don't have to be at the zero. We can change that zero to a hero. We can change that zero to being prosperous in our lifestyles and getting the right things for our children. This is where we are holding it at right now. And also, this is another thing, and I've talked to quite a few young people. They are lacking in faith and trusting. They are lacking in faith and trusting. Now, not just trusting in themselves, but trusting in God in any perspective. You know, we got to get this ball back in the right way. We need to help them to understand, hey, you got to have faith in something, or else you'll fall for anything, which is why we're spending money all kinds of ways and not spending it the way we're supposed to. We got to get our young folks back in perspective, but also get our adults back in perspective, where we can live more productive lives and we can see our community growing more and more every single day.
Karl Rodney, we know that this year marks the 193rd anniversary of the Black Press and the 80th anniversary of the NNPA. So we want to spend a few minutes discussing the future of the Black Press. What do you see for the future of your company and for your fellow publishers' companies?
Well, I think the future has to be looked at and organized around the mission. And the mission of the Black Press 183 years ago was simply to take the position that we can and should be the voice of our community. We should be provided information to our community, and we should be advocating for our community and provide leadership, the torch, as we have seen. That mission remains the same. We're in a technological environment where we now have platforms that extend our voice beyond the printed page. And the mission remains the same, it remains the same, but enlarged in scope. So I think the future for all of us in the print and as we look digitally is to expand from just information to commerce, that we can deal and talk with each other, how we shop and who we support. And it comes back to ownership, entrepreneurship. So the Black media, Black press mission now has a larger scope and a greater platform. And I think, and I know the NNPA is moving in that direction. We're moving in that direction. We were doing weekly updates. Now we're out there with daily briefs. The dynamics of communication, the dynamics of decision making is so closer to us that we have to be faster on the draw. The digital platform is there. So the mission remains, the mission is firm, and we understand what it's all about. The enemy and oppression remains the same. And so we have to be as vigilant as we were then, and we have to be as committed. You know, there's one thing I can say about the Black publishers, and even in tough times, they are committed, and we need that commitment, and that's the commitment that Carib News bring to its own mission. We see our mission as carry on what Roscorm started, what Garvey pushed along, and that we have to look for economic empowerment, and we have to use what we have, the means we have, which is now information, not only printed, but digital, and expand that in a sustainable way that moves our community forward. And that I know is our mission, and for what I've participated in NNPA, it is their mission. We also have an opportunity, Stacy, to use surrounding resource that NNPA has access to enhance those mission, you know, from the foundation, from the forums and what have you, and have them so focused. So we have a lot of challenges, way a lot of challenges, and some are very overwhelming, but we also have lots of opportunity. And as I mentioned to our colleague when I entered first online, that we are a people built for survival, and we are, as an organization, built for survival, and we need to get that into our psyche and keep pushing along.
Thank you. Nab'a.
Well, you know, I'm always honored to hear the words of our esteemed elder, the great Mr. Karl Rodney out of New York. And, you know, I just always refer to him as Mr. Rodney because he deserves that respect. And that's my personal way of paying respect to him. I think that, as he said, commitment. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said to us as the final call years ago, so long as we fulfill our niche, there will always be a place for us. So long as we are in the struggle of our people for freedom, justice, and equality, we will have a place. But we have to fight for our place in this new environment. We have to fight because there are those that not only are we beset by the technological challenges and the age of some of the publishers and a rapidly changing industry that's impacting the world. We also have those that don't want us to be successful. They don't want us to be successful. So we're going to have to fight to take advantage of opportunity. A few weeks ago, the final call, we did a Zoom forum, and we included participants from Sudan, Kenya, South Africa, and Morocco, I think. The technology enabled us to bring all of these Black folks together from different African regions to talk about coronavirus and the pandemic in Africa. So we got to be a little bit creative. We got to connect with our brothers and sisters around the world who are now showing great solidarity with us. Matter of fact, the world is showing solidarity with us. So I think we need to continue to build our connections with one another. Certainly anything that the final call has that is ours, we offer to the other publishers. Lastly, we've got to continue to fight to try to bring young people in, and we've got to get them to understand mission and commitment. That goes a long way, much longer than a dollar. Certainly we want to make a dollar, and we need to. But commitment and devoting yourself to a particular work in life is there's nothing like that, even if you struggle. But I would rather struggle to be a free Black man than to be a slave any day.
Trennie Williams, you want to follow that up?
What you said, Nab'a. You know, we've learned how to struggle. Like we said, we 193 years. This has been 34 years. So by the time we reach 200 years, it'll be about 40. We're branching out, doing the digital network with Star News VIP, which is a separate yet unified entity with Silver Star. And we want to continue doing that. But we have to really work hard, have something in plan for the next 7 years. Project 200, actually have a plan from where we are now to where we're going to be in the future. I'm not talking news, but for the NNPA, for the Black press, for us unified together, where we're going to be with our news media in regards to advertising, where we're going to be as a unified front. These next 7 years are very, very important. Starting with right now is where we want to put the emphasis on, and also having more of our youth involved in this process. You know, I've been privileged being a second generation. Dad started the Silver Star News. Jimmy Delano Williams back in a guest house behind someone else's house. And now we're in the midst of an over $20,000, 20 square foot facility where we house the Silver Star room there that we lease out. Of course, we haven't been leasing out for the past couple of months because of COVID-19, but people inside this facility, and we have other business acumens as well that we are a part of, and all that for myself. But what I'm saying this for a reason is because this is about okay? And I could be doing a whole lot of other things. I worked corporate before. I worked 20 years at FedEx, and I've been in the Marine Corps as well, served in the military, right? But this is where my heart is in regards to making sure this keeps on, and legacy must continue, not just with me, but my children. My son has a graduate degree, undergraduate journalism and electronic media. I have a nephew as well who's in journalism as well. He's on ESPN. He's the social media coordinator for the Memphis Grizzlies. And my son is looking to do communications. And I have another graphic artist for my other son. And all of them like to write. So this is legacy. And I want to, and I'm encouraging them to participate in all these different activities. My son has gone to Washington, D.C. to fill in for me with the NNPA, okay, to cover different events that we've had in previous years. And he was in college at that time. Legacy is where it's going to happen. And not just the legacy of my family, but the legacy that we present to the rest of the world as we move forward. From 193 years to 200 years, Project 200. Thank you, Dr. Chavis, for presenting this opportunity as well. And you, Stacy, has all been good. But I would like for us to pull together and unify and come up with an idea what we can do over the next 6-7 years to move everybody forward in an upward bound way, not just where our newspapers are progressing, but where our communities are progressing.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge Karen Lewis Bell. She says it's enlightening, and she thanks you guys. Deron L. Payne, Lynn Harris, and Bobby Henry, our publisher down in not Tallahassee, Fort Lauderdale, with the West Side Gazette, and all those who've been checking in. Just before we wrap up, I really want each of you to tell us, starting with you, Mr. Karl Rodney, where and how can viewers find your publication in print, online? Where can they find you, Karl Rodney?
Oh, it's nycaribnews.com, and you will get. We can get us weekly, as I mentioned, online, and we also have a daily brief that comes out every day except Sunday, and so we keep to. Our intent is to keep our folks informed, on the cutting edge, and enable them to make decisions, meaningful decisions. I mean, I just want to say this over and over again, that we are the only creditable form of news outlet, information outlet for Black people. And the digital print, we want to make it of value.
Yeah, and the final call, Nab'a.
You can get us at finalcall.com. We have a digital edition that you can subscribe to. I think if you go there today, we have a kind of introductory offer, but go there and check it out. Our website, we're looking to revamp very soon because we still look like we're stuck in the 90s. So we got to fix that. You can also find us on social media at the final call on Twitter. You can find me at RM Final Call on Twitter. You can also find us on Facebook and other social media. Even though Facebook suspended me, I got 2 more days to do, but that's a whole different story. So finalcall.com, find us on social media, find us on Instagram. And for you young people out there, what are you gonna do? This is your day. I'm offering you, and we are offering you opportunity. So you need to come on and take advantage and help promote our people in the next 7 years and into the next millennium. Thank you.
Trennie Williams, where can we find the Silver Star News?
Silver Star News, we've been distributing newspapers all throughout the community, not just with churches and small businesses, but with the grocery stores and all throughout the city. Since COVID-19, of course, churches have not been open, so we've increased our distribution at the grocery stores and other stores that are open throughout the Mid-South and on a weekly basis. Also, you can look for us at starnewsvip.com. starnewsvip.com is where you'll find more daily news and weekly news you can use on a consistent basis as we transform and become more digitally sound. And like others have said, we're looking for the young people to come and participate. Hey, you're a writer, you got a graphics artist, you got editorials and all that. We're looking forward to hearing it from you. Now, you can catch us on Twitter. Star News VIP is on Twitter. We're also on Instagram. You can look up me as well, Trennie Williams, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and I share a lot of news throughout those avenues. One of the things that we'll post on today is from protest to solutions. From protest to solutions. And one of our writers has submitted an idea on regards to that with some steps on how we can get some solutions from these protests that we've experienced in recent days.
And every Monday and every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, you can see right here 4 publishers from the Black press, 4 different publishers coming up next Monday, next Wednesday, and going forward. It's been an absolute privilege. On Friday, we've been celebrating Black Music Appreciation Month here at the Black Press. On Friday, right here, at 7:30 p.m. this Friday, tune in because we have a special program to continue that celebration of Black Music Appreciation Month. We're going to have the original Temptation, Otis Williams, will join us, and there's some surprises in store. So that's this coming Friday, 7:30. Join us. Nab'a Muhammad, the final call. We appreciate you, Trennie Williams, Star News, VIP, and Silver Star News. Definitely appreciate you, Holmes, and certainly Karl Rodney of the NY Carib News. Thanks so much. Thank everyone for joining us. Stay informed, stay well, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.